Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's Circle of Support, which is part of the Stonewater Festival of Learning. And my name is Farah, and I'm a chef and a nutritionist with a particular interest in aging well and brain health. So in today's session, we'll be looking at the benefits of dark chocolate and how it may help in overall health and improving your overall health. We should discuss how much we should eat, and I'll be showing you how to make a tasty, simple treat, dark chocolate coconut clusters. I will also share a recipe on how to make the all-important hot chocolate in a healthier way. So let's get started. So I'm guessing that since you turned up today that you've got a sweet tooth. You like a sweet treat, am I right? Who likes a sweet treat?
Definitely.
Yeah, I think we all like a sweet treat, especially with a cup of tea. So out of the sweet treat, who likes a chocolate sweet treat, a chocolate-based sweet treat? I'm sure there's a few of you. Yes, there we go. So, and what type of chocolate would you normally eat? So can I ask what sort of chocolate you would normally eat? I tend to eat dark chocolate.
I'm a dark chocolate girl.
Okay, I know people that eat white chocolate or milk chocolate, which is the most common one that we find in the shops. So there's three types of chocolates, and I think we've just said them. There's dark chocolate, milk chocolate, and white chocolate. Let's share the screen with the PowerPoint, Ryan, if that's all right. And we can find chocolate in a number of different products, can't we? So we find them in bars, we find them in chips, in cookies, and we can find them even in drinks. But however, not all chocolate is that great for us. You know, according to the British Heart Foundation, a lot of chocolate is high in sugar, so they add a lot of sugar to it, and it's high in saturated fat. That's the fat that we don't want too much of. So they also say it's high energy. So let's just get to the first one. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. So it's high in energy, which says it's high in calorie. So too much of it can result in excess weight gain and is a risk factor for certain health conditions like cardiovascular. So Lorraine just shared a PowerPoint presentation there, and it talks about the different types of chocolate. So not all chocolate is equal. Milk chocolate contains more fat and more milk. It gives you that creamier texture, and it's a lighter brown. I think that's the one that we're more familiar with, and it's a less bitter taste. It's more of a sweet taste, and that's due to the extra milk and fat and sometimes sugar. So dark chocolate is the one that I kind of prefer if I have chocolate at all. And there's little or no milk in that. And it's mostly cocoa solids, cocoa butter, and some sugar. So that also varies depending on the sort of sugar that you have, or the sort of chocolate bar that you have. And it's often semi-sweet, again, depending on the sugar, and it has a sort of a bitter flavour. Now, white chocolate doesn't actually have any cocoa solids in it. The main ingredient here are two types, which is the main ingredient of the other two types of chocolate, beg your pardon. The lack of this ingredient gives it the white colouring, so that's why it's not brown, because there's no chocolate in it. It mainly contains the cocoa butter, milk, and sugar, and this type, the white chocolate, often has more calories. On average, a milk bar chocolate has about how many calories? It has about 250 calories. That's an average size chocolate bar. And that's equivalent to 10% of a man's and 12% of a woman's daily intake. And we often eat it quite quickly. I don't know about you, but most people eat chocolate fairly quickly, especially the bars that we get. So in order to lose all that energy, all that sort of excess energy that we've consumed in such a normally a fairly quick way, we've got to walk. Well, on average, a 50-year-old person's got to walk about 40 to 55 minutes. So it's quite a lot of walking to sort of burn off those calories. So as we already said, some chocolate has got more saturated fat and sugar, whilst other has less sugar and can taste more bitter. So that's our dark chocolate. You have a look at the next slide, Lorraine. So let's just talk about dark chocolate for a minute. It is loaded with more nutrients than the other types of chocolates that we were discussing earlier, and it can have more of a positive effect on our health. So if you're going to eat chocolate, they recommend that dark chocolate is a healthier one out of the three, and it's made from the seed of the cacao tree. Now that's where most of our chocolate comes from, is it, for me, actually from the seed of the cacao tree. So in dark chocolate, it contains something called antioxidants. And antioxidants help us mop up any of the free radicals that might be floating around in our body. You might ask me what free radicals are. They're unstable atoms that float around in our body, and we can get them from eating certain processed foods. And what the antioxidants do is mop these free radicals up. So yeah, just helping our body function better. And the antioxidant that's found in chocolate is called flavonoid, which is not found in milk chocolate or at all in white chocolate, which we know contains no cocoa at all. So recent studies show that dark chocolate may improve health and lower the risk of heart disease. So dark chocolate, the amount of cocoa varies depending on the bar. So anything from 35 to 95. Then 95 is very, very bitter. And the 35 has probably got a bit of sugar in it, making it a little bit sweeter. So in general, the higher the cocoa content, the higher the flavonoid, and the more bitter the chocolate. Do the next slide. Okay, there we are. So there's a difference between cacao and cocoa. So I'm not sure if I totally agree with this. I mean, I think we still need to eat chocolate in moderation. But if we look at the cocoa side, and remember talking about the free radicals, cocoa is highly processed. They heat it to a high heat, which makes it lose its nutrients. It has low levels of cacao, which they tell us is the good stuff, and it often contains sugar, fat, hydrogenated oils, which increase free radicals, and it sometimes has artificial flavoring, and there's hardly any nutrients in it. But cacao they reckon it's a powerful superfood. I think in moderation. It's high in antioxidants, as we just said, and that antioxidant is known as flavonoid. It aids in weight loss. Now, again, I think we need to be careful with this and just be mindful about how much we're eating. It can enhance our mood. Some of the vitamins and minerals in there can help to promote healthy skin. We'll look at that towards the end of this talk, and it has essential vitamins and minerals in them, and we'll look at that as well at the end of the talk, and it can promote a healthy heart, as we said earlier, again in moderation. Do you ever look at the next slide? So look, sometimes people ask about can you eat chocolate if you're diabetic? Again, I think if you're consuming chocolate that's got less added sugar, less added milk, less added fat in it, then there's no reason why as a diabetic you can't consume chocolate in moderation as part of your overall healthy lifestyle and diet. There's no special diabetic chocolate, and if there is, they're often high in fat and sugar, so you're probably better off having a higher percentage of cocoa in a dark chocolate. So let's just take a brief look at a flavonoid. So this is the antioxidant. It's an active compound which is found naturally in many different plants, including tea, apples, various berries. So dark chocolate and berries often go nicely together, as well as cacao beans. And chocolate can be a source of some cacao flavonoids. I think we've said that. However, it should be viewed as a treat, so eating in moderation, and not as a health food. So I can't stress that enough. You can still enjoy dark chocolate and other types of chocolate as part of a healthy diet. The trick is to eat in moderation, perhaps a couple of squares rather than a whole bar. And I think that's the key here. Can we have the next slide, please? So is it healthy for us? Well, yes, according to trusted medical sources, flavonoids are very positive on heart health. They help reduce blood pressure. And this is information that I've sort of deemed from scientific studies. So again, in moderation, it can help to reduce blood pressure. It does improve blood flow to the heart and the brain, and therefore reducing overall risk of heart disease. So that's good to know, wouldn't you say? What's the next slide? So, okay, that's enough of me talking. Shall we make a little sweet treat like we said right at the start? So this is a dark chocolate coconut cluster. So in it, we've got some sugar-free dark chocolate. If I just stand up so you can see me, I'm just gonna make sure that you, so I bought some chocolate, and this, can you see this? This is 85% cocoa. So this bar was reduced down from, so it's quite a large bar, it's 100 grams of chocolate. So this was reduced down from £2 to £1.60. So how much is a bar? Or I don't know, a fruit and nut, because that's essentially what we're going to be making today, just with coconuts. How much is a bar of fruit and nut?
About £1.50.
Okay, so this was £1.60, and that was on a reduced rate. So, but normal price of it is £2. So this is quite a high percentage of chocolate, of cacao, so it's quite a dark chocolate. So what I'm going to do with this, okay, I've got my pot of boiling water here, and I'm going to put, can you see this? Just a second. I'm going to put a bowl on there. Now this is a glass bowl. I'm just going to let that heat up a little bit, and in it, I think I'm going to, so when we were saying earlier about just eating a couple of squares, they're very thoughtfully, so whoever's made this chocolate has very thoughtfully already squared it up for us. So a couple of squares, you can see that, can't you? And once you've had these, because of the bitter taste, they actually, it's a bit more satisfying. So I'm just going to do half a bar, and I'm just going to break it up and pop it into my bowl. Now this hasn't been in the freezer or anything, it's just this is room temperature, but it is winter, isn't it? So breaking it up just helps it to melt better. And we don't want to do it directly on heat because you'll burn it. You can do this in a microwave, but you need to be very careful of it burning, and it does burn. It can burn quite easily, especially the outside of it. So I've got a little bit of chocolate there. It's just going to melt. You don't need to add any milk to it. And in my bowl here, I've got a few nuts. You don't have to add nuts if you've got a nut allergy. The rest is there. I've got some desiccated coconut because that's all I could find. You can use coconut flakes, but this is desiccated. I've got some nuts, and I'm also going to throw a little handful of dried fruit. Now I've got a couple of apricots and a few dates, and that's a natural sweetener. So essentially I'm making a fruit and nut sort of coconut cluster. So I'm just melting my chocolate. I'm going to chop up my fruit. So nice and small.
I'm so going to make these.
They're really tasty actually, and they sit really well in the freezer, and you can just keep them in the freezer, and you can portion them out, and you can just grab them when you're having a cup of tea. Can you see me that far away? Move a bit closer.
Yeah, that's clear.
I'm going to do the same with my nuts. You can buy chopped fruit and nuts, can't you, in a bag already? I'm sure you can.
Yes.
Sorry?
You can, can't you? It's sort of in the sort of Christmas.
Yeah, I think normally, even when it's Christmas, I think you can normally find them in the baking aisle of a supermarket. Now, in the recipe, it says some coconut oil. Now, the only reason it's got coconut oil in there is because it's a binder. It helps them set better. You don't have to use it. I'm just going to use a tiny amount. I'm going to pop that into my chocolate, just a tiny amount. Now, the thing with a lot of these sort of truffle-y type things that you can find at Christmas, they tend to have cream in them, and that's what holds them together. But coconut oil does the same job. It sets at room temperature. As you can see, there's a large jar here. I've got a big jar because I use this quite a lot, but it sets at room temperature, so it's a solid, like butter. You can use butter. if you want to. But again, the health benefits of coconut oil, it's got lots of antioxidants in it. So it's mopping up those free radicals. It's also good for your skin because it's got vitamin E in it as well. So it's quite a good oil. You don't need a lot of it. I keep mine in the fridge. I use a tiny amount. Yeah, I'm just going to put, what is it? Is it a teaspoon? Yeah. It's quite a, yeah, I'm just going to pop it a tiny amount into my chocolate and it's melting.
Yeah, it says half a teaspoon in your recipe.
Yeah, and that's what I've got in there.
Lovely.
So half a teaspoon. Sorry, I'm terrible with measuring sometimes.
Me too. I'll just pop the recipe up again in a minute when you're pausing. Just let me know when you want me to do that.
Yeah, if we pop the recipe up now, Lorraine, that'll be really good. And I'm just melting this. It's nicely melting. Yeah, just bear with me.
We can always share this recipe in the chat below on the video and YouTube where we're hosting this.
So my chocolate is lovely and melted. So coconut flakes. So again, I'm going to measure mine. So it says half a tablespoon of coconut oil. Sorry, 1 cup of coconut flakes. So you can use any cup. I'm just going to use a small bowl, which is about the size of a cup. Put that's my cup of coconut flakes. So all I'm doing, so my chocolate is lovely and melted. If I bring that close to the camera, my oil is melted in there as well. Just dry the bottom. So, and be careful because it can be hot. So there's my melted chocolate. It smells lovely, actually. Chocolate does smell good, doesn't it? And into that melted chocolate, I'm going to throw my coconut. And my nuts are chopped up. And they're going to go in there too. There we are. There's someone at the door. Thank you.
Have you used all the bar of chocolate?
I've used half the bar of chocolate. And this will give us, so it's, can you see that? Yeah. So it smells absolutely delicious. So all I'm going to do now, you can see me, maybe I'll do it here. Let's leave it here. We spoon these onto, let's get rid of that. Spoon these onto a baking sheet, onto a plate or a container, and I could probably do a bit more chocolate in here actually. I'm going to put a bit more chocolate. It's not as wet as I'd like it. Excuse my fingers. Yeah, and it's quite, you can add, so what I've got here is cinnamon.
Cinnamon. I was wondering about cinnamon.
Sorry?
I was wondering about cinnamon.
Yeah, so I've got various spices here, and if you want to make it super Christmassy, you can add cinnamon, which is here. I'm going to add a pinch of cinnamon. You can add cloves, ground cloves. So just a tiny pinch of cinnamon into here, just to make it Christmassy. You can add cardamom or star anise. These can be all ground up and added. So we've got star anise. Here we've got cardamom pods, which give it that Christmassy flavour. You can add nutmeg. That's another one that goes really well with chocolate, doesn't it?
Definitely. Wish this was smell-o-vision.
Yeah, same here. Oh, excuse people. You see John in the background. There's someone that left the parcel at the front door. Can you hear it? At least the door's open. Sorry. It's real life, isn't it? So that's lovely. So that's all melted. And what I'm going to do is spoon this onto so in little balls. It doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be perfect. It will set in the freezer.
It doesn't affect the chocolate to freeze it.
No.
No.
No. So often people will leave their chocolate in the freezer, won't they, and take it out as and when they want it. But yeah, it doesn't have any impact on the chocolate. The coconut oil will help set it as well. So I've just made these tiny little ones. I made some earlier, so I'll bring them out. The dog's here. You can make them as these as big as or as small as you want. My plate's not big enough. Lovely. Okay. So let's pop them in the freezer. There we are. Excuse my fingers. And here's some that I made this morning. So these are more like crisps. So did you see the dog?
Yeah.
These are more like
you can
crisps.
see our lovely dog.
So I made these morning, and these have been set in the freezer from about it takes about 10 minutes. So these are a little bit flatter. They had a little bit more.
How do you get that shape?
I just put them so these were slightly wetter than the ones that I did now. So again, this is just a guideline with the amounts. If you want it wetter or thinner, you can add a little bit more coconut oil, and it will give you more of a liquid type. That was quite a thick one. There was quite a lot of nuts and coconut oil. So this was a little bit wetter, and it's made them a little bit flatter. So they're more crisps. The dog bolts one. These are like little, and they really they're quite nice. I'm going to try one.
Really good.
And these have got the nuts are really small in here, and there's a lot of coconut. So again, you can sort of leave these a little bit not fairly solid. You can roll them in something like nuts or dried fruit or whatever. Yeah, quite nice actually.
Brilliant.
Lovely.
They look really good.
Okay.
Go back to the slides.
So they recommend that chocolate, should be eaten at the end of a meal, so that the body, so I've got a mouthful of chocolate, so the body absorbs it quickly. Have we done that slide? So we said that a couple of squares rather than a whole bar of chocolates. So let's just look at some of the nutrients then that we mentioned right at the beginning. And what chocolate has. So nutrients in dark chocolate. So as you can see, you've got all those minerals and vitamins. So manganese, quite a large proportion of your daily recommended amount. Copper and iron. Iron, believe it or not, is quite a good one for us, especially as we get older. Magnesium is another one that we need as we get older, as is potassium and zinc. So fairly well balanced, And how much is that? That was 70 to 85% cacao. So that's the bar of chocolate that we use today. That's what they're saying. So that's quite a good amount of vitamins and minerals. And we've got vitamin K, selenium, which is good for our thyroid, and of course, calcium. So we've got calcium and magnesium, which are good together. And they've also got a moderate amount of B12 vitamin. So I think that's one of the ones that we can only find in meat, but there's a small amount of it, trace elements of it in chocolate. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that. I mean, we've got another recipe. I don't know if we should do that one. We've got a gingerbread hot chocolate one, and that's with ground ginger. Should we make that? I have to boil my milk. That could take a while.
Just looking at time, it might be.
I'm just going to eat these chocolate bars.
Okay, maybe just talk people through this one, because it's fairly straightforward, isn't it?
It is fairly straightforward. So again, it's just an alternative to some of the sweetened cacao. So let me just show you the cacao that we use at home. So again, you know, if we're talking about price difference, it goes back, doesn't it? The recommended amount is small amounts of this. So with the cocoa that you get, that I don't think there's a huge amount in the price. You need less of this. The same with the chocolate, you need less of it. So I suppose on balance, it worked itself out. So with the hot chocolate recipe, it's just making sure that when you buy you can buy cocoa and you can get it unsweetened with less. So as we mentioned earlier, and with the cacao, it's just quite a bitter flavour. So it takes a little bit to get used to. But it overall, you know, I use my cacao powder. It's just, you can use regular milk or a milk of your choice. And to sweeten it, you can add things like cinnamon, and you can use coconut milk to whip. You can whip coconut cream to go on top rather than the saturated fat. But again, we're talking about in moderation. So yes, here we go. So honey, a little bit of maple syrup to add some sweetness. So we've got cloves, nutmeg, we've got a little bit of ginger powder, so really warming. So if you're a hot person anyway, I'd be careful about having too much of this. And we've got cinnamon, yeah, we mentioned that. So yeah, it's a fairly simple recipe, but a nice healthy alternative, perhaps a sugar-loaded sort of one that we normally might drink over Christmas. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the recipes. Nice quick recipes that you can do at home. You can do them while you're watching TV. And again, I think I would stress it again, eat chocolate in moderation, and small amounts of it are good for your health. You're on mute.
Thank you so much, Farah. That was really interesting. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.